Okay, so let's review what we did yesterday and then just develop it a little bit more. Okay, so we had 5 questions on the Hilchos Teshuvah Perik Beis Halacha Gimel. One, I'm not going to reread it. One was why does he, if Vidui is as he defined for so then obviously I have to get my mind out of your svar. Then obviously I know. Then obviously doing vidui without tשובה, you're not doing vidui, right? That was question 1. Question 2 was what is he getting at with the mashal tovel v'sheretz biyado? Because why doesn't he just say lo asa klum, right? Question number 3 is why does he repeat the halacha of tzarich lifrod esachet here? He already said that in Perak Aleph. Question 4, question 3 is why does he need the Mishlei? Question 4 is why does he repeat this halacha here when he already said it in Perak Aleph? And question 5 is what do these 2 halachas have to do with each other, right? That you need to that vidui without teshuvah is like tovel v'sheretz biyado, and you need to specify the chet. Okay, so yesterday I gave 2 approaches. And I want to try to unify them today. Let's see if we can unify them. So, and because yesterday I thought they were opposites. So yesterday, the first approach I said was just a step, which is that whenever you see the Rambam codify halacha in 2 areas, then that means that there's 2 halachic addresses for the halacha. So the fact that he puts it in Perak Aleph, which is about Vidui, where is it? Perak Aleph, which is about Vidui, and Perak Beis, which is about Teshuvah, means that on the one hand, mitzvahs Vidui demands that you be specific. Okay, that's what he says in Vidui. So the tsuras mitzvah of Vidui is you have to specify the chet. And I didn't mention this yesterday, I don't think, but if you see his formula of Vidui, ketzad misvada omer anachata Hashem chatasi avisi pashati lefnecha. So I beseech you, Hashem, I've sinned, I have intentionally sinned, I have rebelliously sinned before you. Vasisi kach v'kach, and I did such and such. That's the specification. V'harei nichamti uboshti b'maasai. I am regret and am ashamed of my actions. U'la'olam eini chozer l'davar zeh, and I won't go back to this. Zehu ikaros of Vidui. That's the essence of Vidui. V'chol hamarbe lihizvados u'ma'arich be'inyan zeh harei zeh meshubach. The more you go on at length, then the better. So you do see that the more specific you are, the better. But there's a minimal specificity, which is you have to say what chet you did. You can't just do like a stam, I sinned, Okay, so that's in Vidui. But then halacha beis, Perak Beis, is saying that this is also a halacha in teshuvah, which is that even if there were no mitzvah of vidui, or even let's say like you're mute and you can't do vidui, well, okay, I can't go that far, right? When you specify the sin, not only is your vidui better, but the teshuvah that you've done believe is better. Okay, and we have to see how that is. Okay, so that was one approach I gave. The second approach I gave was based on the Rambam and the More Nevuchim that said that the purpose of Vidui is to reinforce your belief that Teshuvah works. Okay, and according to that, from the Kuntras, therefore, if you did Vidui without Teshuvah, so then you still are doing Vidui. I'm going to borrow the diuk that I said because this is not part of your share. So if you look at the Rambam here in Gimel, so here's the question. Is the Rambam saying that you did a Maaseh Tefilah? Yes. He's just saying that the Tefilah that you did doesn't help you without letting go of the sheretz. And the raya of that is if you let go of the sheretz, right? Then, or if the sheretz like spontaneously combusts, you don't need to do another Maaseh Tefilah. You are already total, in the mikvah, right? So what the Kuntras wanted to say is that you are doing a Maaseh Vidui, which is a Maaseh of articulating that Teshuvah works. So what would you say is lacking in that Vidui if you didn't do Teshuvah? I mean, it is a false statement. Obviously, it's lacking in that sense, right? Which is that you weren't saying the things that you resolved to do because you didn't resolve to stop. Say again? Right, but what is lacking in the vidui or in the teshuvah? Well, okay, what's lacking in teshuvah is you haven't gotten rid of the chet, right? But like, why is this vidui lacking? Because that's what the mashal also implies, that the vidui is lacking. It's like doing tefilah with the sheretz in your hand. The vidui is not going to help you. So if vidui is that which reinforces your belief in the efficacy of teshuvah, so can't I reinforce my belief in the efficacy of teshuvah, like even though I haven't done it yet? Yeah. Well, that's the interesting thing, right? So if the Rambam had said something about kapara here, yeah, right. He says in Perek Aleph, but like it's kind of weird, Ikra Chasam in a Sefer, that he doesn't mention kapara here, you know? And by the way, just so you know, I mean, this is another good halacha to go over. What's the raya that you can do tשובה without vidui? There's a famous raya. They can do tשובה without vidui, without saying anything.
Without saying anything?
Yeah. No, it's in the halachos. This is a famous one that the Rav likes to quote, which we haven't read yet this year. It's in Sefer Nashim. That's the hint.
Oh.
It's in Hilchos Ishus. That's the other hint.
I'm not
Okay, so that there's this famous halacha in, hold on a second, I don't know where it is offhand, of being makadosh al tanai, right? So you can do kedushin to a woman on certain conditions, right? So, and if the condition is fulfilled, then you are mikudeshes, even like retroactively, and if she's mikudeshes, and if not, then you're not, right? So, so you can come up with wacky tanais, right? So like he goes through a bunch of interesting ones, which you get into interesting definitions. Like for example, I'm gonna skip ahead. Hold on. All right. Al tanai she'ani. Oh. Al tanai. That's the one I'm gonna quote, but there's a fun one also. Hold on. Fine. I'll go with that one first because that's the one we're gonna go to. Yeah. So if you are makadosh an isha al manas she'ani tzaddik, right, on the condition that you're a tzaddik, afilu Russia gamor, even if it's Jewish Hitler, right? Hari zo mikudeshes misafek. So there's a safek kedushin, right? Why? Shema here b'tshuva b'dato. Maybe he had a musing of tshuva, a fleeting thought of tshuva in his mind. And if you say al manas she'ani shihu Russia, I don't know what kind of woman is going to say yes to that, right? But I guess what's her name, Izabel or Zeresh, right?
Or it's just me taking it as a joke,
right? Okay, fine. Spoil the fun. You're right. Filu tzadi gamor. So even if you're a tzadi gamor, harizok mikudeshes misafek, then you're mikudeshes misafek. Shema here ba'avodah zara b'dato, because maybe you had an avodah zara musing. She'avon avodah zara gadolahu mishi harhar lavo belibo nase Russia, because avodah zara is a huge avon. Once you muse about it, then you are you become a Russia. So you see from there that the hirhur tshuva is enough to change your status from being a tzaddik to a Russia and vice versa, right? No, it's not. That's the thing, right? Yeah. So I mean, this is its own study. Like, how can that qualify you as a tzaddik? Like, hirhur tshuva just means like what I imagine here. Okay, what would be probably a common case of hirhur tshuva that would occur, like even if someone didn't know the halacha? I feel like there's a common case that like probably has happened to many people throughout history. Yeah, deathbed, right? Is like deathbed, or you're about to die. Here, b'tshuva, boom, But that person is not going through all the hard work of tshuva and changing themselves and like being kabbalah asid, because especially if they know that there's no asid. So that's a good question about like how this fits into the whole system. Yeah, I'm just bringing it in to show. Yeah.
You could argue that
Well, he mentions that, right, but that is that case is amil misaso. That's if he does tשובה, which is azivas chayed yasirim machshavah od nachama yaid. So you could say you do that all instantaneously. You could say that. Yeah, you could say that. Deathbed case. Well, the Rambam is talking about just regular tshuva, comparing it to tshuva gemura.
Right, they're also saying like, what about like someone who's got a visa, right? Especially for the Rambam, he doesn't get a kapara unless he does tshuva.
Right.
So you can't be kapara asid in that sense, right?
To the contrary, you can. It's very easy.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying like to your point before. Like,
yeah.
You're about to die.
Right.
What is kapara asid you can meet?
Yeah, you can't do tshuva gemura, right. But saying I'm not going to do it again. I mean, you're right. It's less powerful because you've got the threat of death looming over you. Yeah. Okay.
That's around my point when you said
Yeah, right. Exactly. You still more or less love. Yeah. Yeah. So I think the way to think about it is I gave this muscle, but maybe we could work it out. Is like if you have a person who is like an alcoholic and they say, I can stop whenever I want, right? So the Maisa Dibur that he's doing is a Dibur that reinforces the belief in the ability to change. But is it really doing that when he's saying it and he's still drinking? No, right? So same thing, when you do a Maisa of Vidui and you haven't done Teshuvah, the Maisa of Vidui you're doing is a statement that reaffirms the belief that Teshuvah works. But if you're withholding yourself from engaging in it, then it's not going to actually have that kiyum. So it's a Maisa Vidui without a kiyum, basically. So I think that's the idea. So the question is like, are those two approaches that I was saying contrary, or are they unified? Because the approach one was saying that there's two reasons to specify the chait. One is mitzad vidui, one is mitzad tshuva, and this is I feel like this is consistent with that. Saying mitzad vidui, it's a better action of vidui in terms of a declaration of your sinning before God. And in terms of the tshuva, it's going to have a greater impact on the staying power of the tshuva or on the efficacy of the tshuva if you talk about your chait that you did specifically. Whereas if you just said stam, like I sinned, then that doesn't really, it's not going to connect the lesson of the vidui to the particular tshuva that you did. All right, sorry, Ian. In a 15-minute mini-shiur, we don't have time to waste on thinking, thinking with silence. Okay, so let's move on to a new thing. This is something I don't know what to make of it, so I'm just going to show it to you and we'll be perplexed together. Okay, so it's always a fun game to look at where did the Rambam get his halacha from. Okay, so the is it in this Gemara or this Gemara? Okay, so it's in this Gemara here. So it seems like the Rambam source of the tovel b'sheretz biado is Taanis Tezayin Amud Aleph. Amar Rav Ada bar Ahava. Okay, Adam sheyesh biado avera umizvade ve'eno chozer ba lamahu doma. Someone who has an avera in his hand and he confesses and he didn't return on it. Okay, what is he comparable to? Adam shetovis sheretz biado, to a guy who's holding on to a sheretz. Afilu shafilu tova b'chol memos sheva olam. Even if he tovels in all the waters in the world, which is kind of a weird thing. Lo also lo tefilah. The tefilah will not count. Zarko miado, but if he throws it away, kevin shetovel bar ba'im sa'ah, once he immerses in 40 sa'ah of water, miyad also lo tefilah, then immediately the tefilah will count for him. Shneimar, as it says, umodev ozev yerucham. That's the same pasuk the Rambam quoted, and then Omer nisal levavina el kapayim el kel b'shmayim. Now, if you just look at this, it sounds like the Rambam's case, right? Yeah. No, go ahead.
And yeah, it's just that you're trying to fix it while holding on to the source.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So how is the Rambam interpreting that? What's the nimshal according to the Rambam?
Like resolved to not do it.
You haven't resolved to not do it again. Okay. Check out.
Literally doing this.
Right. Check out what Rashi or Miuchas the Rashi says. Okay. He says like this. Wait. Biado. Yeah. Sheish biado avera gezel. Theft. The eno chozer bo. So Rambam says eno chozer bo means you don't do tshuva on it. Rashi says eno chozer bo l'shalem es hagezel. You don't pay back the gezel to the guy you stole it from. Lamahu doma. What is he similar to? To someone who does tefilah b'sheretz biado. So that sounds like a completely different learning of the halacha, right? That's saying it's a ben adam l'chavero chait where there's damages involved, or I mean, I don't know if he's extending it to all damages, but certainly gezel, and you didn't give back the object, right? So it's like. So it's not really a question on how the Rambam got what he got from the Gemara, because that's how I would have read the Gemara. It's a question of like, what's the machlokes between the Rambam and this Miuchas Rashi? And it's not just Miuchas Rashi, it's also this other person I just discovered yesterday on All Torah, the Rav Yehuda al-Madari, of course, but he just quotes Rashi. Yeah. So that's something to think about. And then one more question to think about for tomorrow. I would like to understand the Mishlei pasuk in this context. Okay, so here's the Mishlei pasuk in full. Machaseh pesha'av lo yatzliach umodev ozev yerucham. One who conceals his offenses will not succeed, but one who admits and abandons them will have mercy. Will receive mercy. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and spoil the pshat for you. Okay, pshat is in a ben adam l'chavero situation. My pshat is if you try to cover up your offenses, okay, then you will not succeed in covering them up. Okay, and the person who you sinned against is just going to get mad at you and not forgive you. But if you fess up and abandon it, then you will receive mercy. And I think I told this anecdote last year or the year before. The example of this was when I was in yeshiva. I walked into my room one day and someone had punched a hole in the wall. Okay, like a fist size thing in the wall of my room. Okay, And I felt, even though it's not my property, I felt violated. Like someone came to my room and punched a hole in the wall, So we asked all around, and like no one fessed up, my roommate and I. And then months later, we found out that it was someone, someone who did it. And the reason they did it was just like, they were just like practicing martial arts moves and didn't know that there was like a hollow in the wall, and they punched it. And I said, well, why didn't you tell me? And he said, like, I didn't want you to be mad. Okay, I understand that, but now I'm more mad that you tried to avoid, like, isn't our relationship such that like, we can talk it out, or like, or showing remorse. So plain pshat is that if you are in a situation where you've wronged somebody, the best thing to do is admit that you did wrong without any qualifications and say you're not going to do it again. In fact, I actually got this when I was teaching at Hafter in my second year of teaching. A kid texted me, one of my 11th grade boys texted me from the principal's office and said, I'm about to get in trouble. Do you have any Mishlei for me? Okay, so I texted him this idea. I said, whatever you do, don't make excuses, apologize, admit that you did wrong, and say that you're not going to do it again. And it's very hard for someone to get to like fume and rage at you if you actually do that sincerely, But the question is, that works for being Adam L'Chavero. What is the idea for being Adam L'Makom? Okay, so that's something to think about for tomorrow. Okay, there's one more thing I want to think about. Hold on. One more thing, but maybe I don't remember it. Oh yeah. I don't think we're gonna have time for this, but I'll state the question. Anyway, the Gemara quoted 2 psukim, okay? Mishlei and then Echa. Nisa levavenu el kapayim. Let us lift our hearts. I think they say el here means like with our palms to God in heaven. What does that have to do with tovel v'sheretz biyado? Like, what, your hands have to be empty? Like, Yeah. Okay, so let's try to tackle that tomorrow. Okay.